Do you feel that it has come halfway through your life and suddenly everything seems meaningless, as if, after years of building a career, an identity, and a life, a silent question arose? Was that? Society sells us the idea that life follows a linear path. We study, work, achieve status, build a family. But why, when you reach 40 or 50 years, so many people feel a deep void, as if something essential is missing? Carl Jung had an answer for that. For him, true life does not start in youth, but in middle age. This is because the first half of life is focused on the outside world. We seek recognition, success, and acceptance. But there comes a time when the unconscious begins to manifest itself, demanding something deeper. What Jung has found is that this sense of crisis is not a problem. It is a call. And those who understand this call can transform this phase of life into a renaissance. Today, we will explore why Jung believed that life only really starts at 40, and how this can be the most important phase of its existence. For Carl Jung, human life is divided into two great phases. The first half is focused on the outside world. We build our social identity, seek stability, accumulate goods, develop a career. It is the period when we worry about being someone in the eyes of others. But this phase has a problem. It keeps us focused on what is outside, not what is inside. Jung said that throughout this process, we often sacrifice essential parts of ourselves. We suppress desires, ignore emotions, and follow a script imposed by society without questioning if that really completes us. Therefore, when we come halfway, something changes. What before made sense begins to lose strength. The titles, money, social approval, all this no longer brings the same satisfaction. At this point, the unconscious begins to give signs. And for those who do not understand these signs, this phase may seem like a crisis. But Jung saw it in another way. For him, this change is natural. And, more than that, it is necessary. There comes a time when the focus needs to change from the construction of the outside world to the construction of the inner world. Those who resist this transition, trying to live as if they were still in their youth, end up in a cycle of dissatisfaction. But those who accept this call have the chance to enter one of the richest phases of existence, the process of individuation. Before we talk about how this happens, it is important to understand why this phase generates so much anguish and anxiety for some people. After all, if this transition is natural, why is it so difficult? If the transition from youth to maturity is natural, why do so many people suffer at this stage? Why is the famous 40 crisis so real for so many? For Jung, the answer is in the way we live the first half of life. When we spend years building our identity based only on the outside world, work, status, material goods, appearance, social approval, we end up neglecting our inner world. But the unconscious does not accept to be ignored forever. Half of life, something awakens. Unscreecing dreams, sudden dissatisfaction, deep questions about the meaning of life. It's as if something inside us is trying to tell us, you lived to others, now it's time to live for yourself. The signs of the calling of the unconscious Jung identified some common signs that appear at this stage. A feeling of emptiness, even though I have achieved everything I wanted. Desire for change, not knowing exactly where to go. An intense nostalgia of youth or a desire to recover lost time. Radical changes in behavior, such as abandoning a career or ending a relationship for a clear reason. Attraction for spiritual, philosophical, or psychological themes. These signs show that the unconscious is asking for attention. Anyone who ignores this call, trying to suffocate him with immediate distractions or pleasures, ends up falling into a state of stagnation, a feeling that life has lost color, that there is nothing more to be discovered. But for those who accept this call, the true awakening begins. Jung believed that this was the perfect time to start the individuation process, a self-discovery path that completely transforms the way we see life. Most people spend the first half of their lives trying to fit in, seeking acceptance, gaining status, following a script that was often not written by themselves. But Jung believed that the second half of life should be about becoming who you really are. This process of becoming authentic, of integrating all parts of oneself and finding true meaning to existence, is what Jung called individuation. Unlike what many think, individuation does not mean becoming an isolated individual. On the contrary, it means integrating all parts of your psyche, both the ones you accept and the ones you reject, to become a complete being. What happens during individuation? Encounter with the shadow. Individual begins when you face what you have always ignored about yourself. What did you suppress? What desires or feelings denied for fear or convenience? What parts of yourself have you left behind to fit into society? Persona deconstruction. Persona is the role we assume in the world, our social self. Individual requires that you question this identity. Who am I beyond my work, my status, my achievements? Reconnection with the self for Jung, is the totality of being. It is the part of us that has always existed but has often been drowned out by the demands of the world. During individuation, we approach the self and start living according to what we really are, not what others expect from us. This process is not comfortable. It requires deconstruction, requires facing difficult truths, and requires courage to give up old certainties. But for Jung, this is where true life begins. Those who undergo individuation with honesty and openness find a new kind of satisfaction, something that does not come from external achievements, but from deep internal alignment. But how to start this transition? How to embrace this new phase without fear and without resistance? If individuation is the way for a more authentic life, how to take the first step? How to get out of the middle-aged crisis and turn this period into a Renaissance opportunity? Jung believed that this transition requires three fundamental changes. Abandon the illusion of control. The first half of life is guided by a desire for control. We want security, predictability, stability. But over the years, we realize that the world is uncertain and that absolute control is an illusion. Jung teaches us that the second half of life requires a different stance. Instead of resisting changes, we must accept them as a natural part of the journey. This means giving up old certainty and allowing yourself to explore new possibilities. If a job no longer makes sense, it may be time to look for something more aligned with whom you have become. If a relationship has worn out, it may be time to rethink how you want to live this phase. If old passions were set aside, this is the time to rescue them. The resistance to change generates suffering, but acceptance paves the way for a fuller life. Reconnect with its own essence. Many reach 40 or 50 without knowing how to answer a simple question. What do I really want? Society teaches us to run after success, status, and external validation. But in the second half of his life, Jung said that the most important thing is to listen to himself. What did you always want to do but never had the courage? What gives you genuine pleasure, regardless of the opinion of others? Who would you be if you could abandon all social expectations? This is the time to seek these answers and start living more aligned with your true self. Find a new purpose. The middle-aged crisis often arises because the purpose that has guided us here no longer makes sense. If before the motivation was to build a career, create a family, or gain stability, now the call is another, seeking something that has real meaning. The purpose in the second half of life need not be linked to material achievements. It can be something more internal, such as share wisdom and experience with others, develop new skills or passions, connect with something greater, whether in spirituality, art, or philosophy. Jung believed that when finding a deeper purpose, midlife anguish dissolves and a new chapter of life begins. If youth is the phase of construction, maturity must be the phase of truth. Those who resist this transition live trapped in the past, trying to prolong an identity that no longer exists. But those who accept this change discover that life is actually just beginning. The big question Jung leaves us is, will you continue following a script that no longer represents you, or will finally live according to who you really are? Now tell me, do you feel that you are going through this transformation? How are you dealing with this phase of life? Leave your comment and share this video with someone who also needs to listen to this message. And of course, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications to more content like this. We see each other in the next video.